Hello everyone, you're about to hear a synopsis of the film The Lone Samurai. Enjoy. 1281 The bravest samurai took to the sea to confront the invading Mongol army. However, a powerful tsunami sank the enemy fleet. All the Japanese warriors perished except Rico, who woke up on the shore of an unknown island. His leg was impaled through and through by a piece of wood. Rico used a rope to pull himself toward the dead boy, but the boy rose to his feet and ran as if nothing had happened. The samurai was plagued by hallucinations. He reached for his broken sword and finally pulled the piece of wood embedded in his leg. After bandaging his wound, Rico limped along the shore. By evening, the water ran out. The lone samurai spent that night in a cave. He saw the boy again and trudged after him into the thicket of the forest. The ghost child refuses to wait for his pursuer, so Rico soon loses him. This boy is one of two sons of a samurai. They often played pirates. In the morning, the man continued to be plagued by hallucinations. Now, he imagined his wife Rico wandered along the shore when he suddenly saw her body there. But this was another delusion. The samurai constantly hears the voices of his family. He grew tired and decided to simply leave, making an error, but suddenly the voices disappeared. And in the distance he saw Mount Fuji, which so resembled his native Fuji. Rico realized it was too early to give up. The man gathered logs and dragged them inland. There he discovered a majestic waterfall and was filled with joy having found fresh water. Rico set about foraging for food. He sharpened a broken sword and began chiseling something. In the morning, Rico made ink from charcoal and water, and a brush from a stick and a strand of hair. Even under these conditions, the Japanese man wanted to write to Hoko. Day after day passed. Rico managed to heal his wound. He tirelessly drags logs forward. It seems that Rico has finally regained his will to live. Although sad memories from the past have not gone anywhere. Finally, Rico climbed the mountain and did what he wanted. Ritual Vedatory. 4 years pain kept me alive. Let love nourish me in death. A lone samurai will still perform the chain. He will simply do it properly. The natives broke Tori and bound the foreigner, hand and foot. They took Rico by boat to a settlement on the mainland. The healthy warrior removed his mask and spoke to the captive. We stopped you, and now you belong to me. Several more captives sit nearby. One of them is already missing a leg. This nice guy plans to eat them all little by little. After some time, their shaman joined the cannibals. He feeds the captured livestock fruit. The shaman even offered to treat Riku's wound so he wouldn't die prematurely. The bald captive's second leg was broken. They'll cut it off with a samurai sword. Riku the cannibal drools over the chubby boy. He finally couldn't resist and cut out the captive's tongue. The legless one was seasoned with petals and smeared with something. Then they fed him his own blood. They forced the chubby boy to do the same. Rico realized he was in a living hell. The fat boy's hand was chopped off while he was unconscious. Rico was supposed to drink from the horn necks. The Japanese complied and immediately felt his consciousness cloud over. Rico saw his sons, who demanded that he bring them 50 pirate heads. Well, so be it. The savages were surprised to see the snack speak. The heads on your shoulders belong to me. The trained fighter easily knocked the guards to the ground. He bludgeoned the first with a rock, and the second tried to stab the Trika with a spear, but the Trika wrapped a rope around his neck and strangled him. Cutting off a head with a wooden tool with teeth isn't easy, but he had no other. The fat savage was horrified when he saw his comrade's head. The dazed Japanese went to study the native cave paintings, but his main find lay ahead: mountains of skulls. The cannibals themselves were busy transferring power on the other side of the cave. The tribal chieftain gave the bone mask to his son, that bloodthirsty killer. He still holds Riku's samurai sword. The fat captive with only one limb remaining was a ritual meal for this band of cannibals. Before he died, he looked at Rico, who silently watched this monstrous act. Soon, a drunken native discovered what the stranger had done. He impaled the guards' heads on a stick and fled into the forest. The new chieftain commanded the tribe to go hunting. Armed with bone weapons, they landed on the shore of the island where they first spotted the Japanese. They scoured the forest, and Rico picked them off one by one. Attacking from behind, the warriors couldn't hear him because the monkeys were screaming throughout the forest. Then the samurai attacked 3 enemies at once and playfully dispatched them. A larger detachment emerged into an open field. Riku killed two with a bow. The rest hid in the grass. One native dared to attack and took an arrow to the eye. Retreating, the savages lost two more. The Japanese, meanwhile, manages to right his own eyes as they went. I once collected the heads of my enemies. I found little joy in their rotting remains. The shaman saw an enemy ahead, simply standing there in fact. Riku was prepared. He lit fires to hide in the smoke and armed himself with a sharp stick. An experienced fighter destroys these savages with incredible ease. The shaman became frightened and retreated. He returned to the chief, who was staring at another. Hoku found him. He found us. Demon, the army screamed and ran towards the smoke. Riku was waiting for them on the shore. The warrior found an intact samurai sword, washed up by the tide. I missed my family. The chief removed his mask and ordered his men to run forward. However, he is in no hurry to attack himself. A crowd of natives attacked Riku, but their sacrifices became even more senseless when the warrior found an intact katana in his hands. An attempt to kill a stranger with a spear from afar also failed, but Riku himself was accurate. The next group of suicide bombers ran to the slaughter. Riku kills the cannibals with a smile on his face. Finally, there was a renewed sense of survival. The samurai himself ran toward the remaining savages. He was gradually approaching the chieftain. The chieftain sent his best warrior forward, a madman who ran toward Creek on all fours. He dodged the katana. Another warrior bit the blade with his teeth. It had been a poor plan, but the madman managed to land a couple more blows. Several more enemies ran up to Crick and grabbed his arms, but the warrior managed to free himself and cut down the madman's wife. Curly rushed forward again and began to intimidate the samurai. He alternately attacked and retreated, jumping around Riku like a monkey. Finally, the samurai grabbed him by the leg and severed his Achilles tendon. But even so, he continued to resist. Riku inflicted several wounds on the warrior and finally cut him down, but he himself was immediately struck in the back with a club. The chieftain stands to the side, demanding that the shaman join the fight. After all, he's a legendary warrior matched. By then, the exhausted Riku had dispatched the entire crowd and moved toward the chieftain. Quote, "I knew you were special. That means you're next." Quote. The shaman placed his vertebrae necklace on the sand and picked up his fighting staff. The small but agile fighter truly proved a formidable opponent. The others were no match for him. The shaman wielded his staff, trying to keep the foreigner at bay, but then in a leap Riku sliced through the weapon. The shaman was forced to grab the sword with his hand, but that only delayed the inevitable. The samurai ripped open his stomach with a few blows, then slit his throat. Now there were no more backs for the tribal chieftain to hide behind. He held a massive bone axe in his hand and offered the Japanese a chance to take his sword. The big man also stripped off all unnecessary clothing, prayed to the bone mask, and charged forward at the enemy. The final boss was powerful and full of strength. The savage threw sand in Riku's face and slashed him several times. A powerful blow with his axe sent the Japanese man flying back, but he wouldn't let it finish him off. Instead, Riku wounded the chieftain in the leg. The fight continued during the struggle. The broken sword flew into the air. Riku caught it and inflicted another wound on the chieftain. Wielding two swords at once, the samurai began to drive the enemy toward the sea, but the enemy desperately fought back. He drove Riku into the water and began to drown him. On the brink of death, the samurai again saw his dancing wife. He fought back, rose to his feet, and pierced the chieftain's head with his sword. With his second, he chopped off the head. Thus the master dealt with the entire cannibal tribe in just one day.